this segment is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. And not only that, they are safe and secure because for me, and I'm sure you as well, when it comes to our money, and especially when it comes to making wagers, you want to make sure that it's done in the right place, man. A safe and secure place where your bets are going to be handled the way they're supposed to be handled. And if you haven't signed up yet, what are you doing, right? I mean, what are you doing? But if you haven't, it's okay. You can get in the game right now. All you need to do once you go to sign up for DraftKings, make sure you enter the promo code MOATS. That's MOATS, and you'll get up to $1,000 in deposit bonuses, man. So what are you waiting on? Get involved, baby. Download the app, put the code in, and let's get it. Man, we got another big time game this weekend, baby. I'm excited, man. We taking this 7-0 show on the road again. We are officially road warriors now. So I'm excited about it, man. What about you, man? How you feeling?
No, so am I. 7-0. Cowboys aren't looking too hot, man. I was going through all my preparation stuff, and I don't want to be disrespectful. I'll put it that way.
You're going to be disrespectful.
I'm not. You think I am this whole podcast?
Well, no, I mean, anytime somebody throws a disclaimer out, it's kind of like, with all due respect, you're going to say something very disrespectful. Or, I don't mean to be rude, you're going to say something rude. So, by you saying, I don't mean to be disrespectful, it lets me know already. You put a disclaimer out, you're going to say something disrespectful.
If I'm being honest, though, is it disrespect? I don't know.
Would you be mad if we lost?
Would I be mad if we lost?
Yeah.
Yeah, why wouldn't I be?
Disrespectful then.
What do you mean?
Well, because you're probably going to go on about, man, they just bums. You're not really concerned about them, man. There's no way we should ever lose this game. We should beat them 100-0. At the NFL level, that's disrespectful. So that's all I'm saying. So
not saying 100-0.
But by me asking, hey, would you be mad if they upset us? Then yeah.
I would have been mad about last week too. But
it'd be a different level of mad. We could both agree upon that. We could definitely agree upon that, man.
There would be, yes. Yeah. Yes.
So that's the different level.
But what's wrong with that? I don't know what's wrong with that.
To each his own. That's all I'm saying is for you to act like it's not going to disrespect them. Don't play it like that. Don't act like you care about their feelings, baby.
The Cowboys?
Yeah, you said you don't want to be disrespectful. You're not disrespectful to me. You're disrespectful to them.
I just don't want to come off like I'm overlooking it or anything. But just as from a bird's eye view, there's not too much concern here.
Oh, wow. See, I figured you would go the other way, being, the experience that you've had being a part of Steeler Nation and Tomlin losses, you would be, oh, man, no, if anything, we got to be extra focused right now, man.
I don't get the feel from this team. This team very much feels like the 2008 Steelers to me.
Okay.
Where every game we're going to go in there and do what we do. There's no concern about dropping a game or anything. I just think everyone's laser focused and we have some type of mission on our mind, some type of, I don't know. We're just all locked in. That's what it feels like to me.
I like it there. Okay.
So that's why I'm saying I'm not concerned, but I'm also not concerned of a letdown either. Right. So like that's the play at hand here with me.
Okay, fair enough. I ain't opposed to that, man. Like I said, everybody handles it differently, man. But I think it's a game that they definitely should win. We felt like that throughout this season thus far, even when we talked about the quote-unquote difficult matchups of teams like the Browns, Titans, and Ravens, just based on a record standpoint. But yeah, I mean, when you're talking about this team from the Steelers' perspective, there are not a lot of things that they do that could really give you issues. Now, yes, scenarios could happen where they lose, without a doubt. It's the NFL. That's what I was kind of getting to you with in terms of, man, there's never a quote-unquote easy game. I mean, we saw that just Monday night when you got the Giants facing the Bucs, who we feel like the Bucs are probably going to be one of the NFC representatives, when it comes down to NFC championship games and Super Bowls. And literally, that went down to the wire. I mean, one call going the other way could have a totally different ending to it as well. That's the only thing, man. When I think of the Cowboys in this particular matchup, it's like, just understand that part of it. But I don't think the team has those concerns, man. The team is focused. They're ready to go, as they should be. When you get to this point and you're 7-0, man, you understand the significance of it. And they're still playing for that first round bye. They're still
big.
Even though, shout out to the NFL, you see them flirting with potentially removing that right now, man.
That's if some changes happen to the schedule. They have to add another week, correct?
Yeah, well,
week or two.
That part of it, yeah. I don't know if it has to be 1 week or 2 weeks, but they're flirting with that idea as well, which would definitely suck because then you lose that incentive of getting the first round bye. So that's the only thing I'm like, as long as it still stays
home field could be big though.
Yeah,
even though it's not as big this year with the whole less fans in the stadium.
Right.
I still feel like playing at Heinz Field in a playoff game means something as opposed to going on the road.
That's fair enough, man, in that regard. I mean, I don't think that's the issue. I guess for me, man, the biggest thing is just you don't want to keep making those changes on the fly. From an NFL standpoint, when they're talking about, all right, we've already seen them move a bye week this season. We've already seen them alter the bye week schedule in terms of how many days off a team is supposed to have. We remember that happening here in Pittsburgh and how the NFLPA had to give approval for that. That's my only thing. I'm just a little concerned. Like, man, y'all making a lot of these changes on the fly. I don't want y'all to keep doing that, because then that could really hurt us down the line, man. If you're talking about a team that should have a first round bye, not even getting that, and even though you'll have a favorable matchup, you still run the risk of injury. You still run the risk of anything potentially happening in that particular game. Just like, yeah, can we stop touching the schedule? Don't just leave it as is. That's just my thought process with it, man. But this is definitely, man, I'm excited about this matchup, man. Number one is the Cowboys. And let's see, the last time we saw them was 2016. Obviously, it didn't end the way we wanted it to end. So I feel like it's important that, we go down there and take care of business this go around, man.
No, same. I agree 100%. Now, where do we want to start? That's the whole question.
Man, we always start with offense. You know that?
Huh?
We always start with offense.
You pick which one.
No, it's all you, man. You pick the day. You pick the day. I like the dark colors, man. You about to go hack somebody right now, man.
Nah.
Jeez.
Let's see here. I kind of want to start with their offense versus our defense here.
All right, let's do it then, man.
Their offense is incompetent. It's incompetent, dude. We watched the Sunday Night Football game against the Eagles.
Yeah.
And they were just praying for field goals. That was their only way they were going to be able to score. I know the wind was kind of in play there, but that was with Ben DiNucci, who is their third-string quarterback. And now they're on their fourth string. And they don't even know who their quarterback is going to be at this point. It's either going to be Cooper Rush or Garrett Gilbert. They have weapons, obviously, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb. Their tight end's not bad either, Zeke Elliott. Here's the problem. It's who's the quarterback. Like, you can have all these weapons. If you don't have a guy that's throwing them the ball, it's not going to matter. Because if this was Dak Prescott, I would say their receivers would be a big concern.
Absolutely.
But now I'm not concerned because they're going to be rolling with Cooper Rush, Garrett Gilbert. I was even trying to get a little scouting report, look up some highlights, look up some stats. They've barely played in the NFL. Garrett Gilbert played in the AAF for a little bit. But, man, there's nothing about their offense because of their quarterback that scares me. That's really it. Like, you could say, Zeke, but that's really all they have. So we're going to focus in on Zeke and make sure Zeke doesn't go off against us.
And Zeke is dealing with a hamstring injury as well. So I know he was officially listed as questionable, but they do anticipate him playing in the game. But just knowing going in that he already is dealing with a hammy, that lets you know, hey, if it goes bad early, they're not going to keep him out there. So I think that adds to the situation as well. And when you're talking about those two quarterbacks, Garrett Gilbert and Cooper Rush, Cooper actually backed up. I think they said he backed up Dak for
you know what, I did read he had some good preseason run or something like that.
You know how we feel about that,
bro. But that is my exact point. Right. You could say Gilbert started in the AAF for a little bit, and Cooper Rush had a good preseason run. That's all you can say. Good, and if that's the case, that's who you're deciding between your starting quarterback against. I guess you could say we're the best defense in the league.
I didn't think it was a debate right now.
Okay, I don't know. This is just off the top of my head. I don't want to come off as biased. We know I am biased, but still.
You're not biased? No.
I'll be straight up about it. I'm biased. That's not the situation you want to be in if you're the Cowboys.
Yeah, and it's funny, man, when we talk about the different positions, if this is a receiver, if they say they were missing Amari Cooper, say they were missing just Zeke, but you still had Dak at quarterback, it changes the face of how you view them. But not only is
even Dalton, and it's not at Dak's level. Maybe you could say, "Oh, does Dalton have a game here magically?"
Absolutely. Well, and my thing is this: less about the quarterback, right? Because we know that's a big element of this. But when you talk about the offensive line, it's not the offensive line that we're accustomed to seeing when it comes to Dallas. I think 4 of their starting 5 offensive linemen are on IR now. I think the only one remaining is Zach Martin. So when you look at that, and they have Cameron Irvin, who hasn't been the most productive in terms of blocking, and he's going to be your starting left tackle now that I think about it, which is even crazier, even scarier. That to me is the bigger issue, because when we talk about how to combat the Steelers defense, the first thing you have to do is protect. We talk about the front in terms of TJ, Bud, Cam, Tuitt. How do you protect your quarterback against those guys? And when you look at this offensive line and how banged up they are, that's a recipe for disaster. Because even Baltimore, right? Baltimore, we said the receivers, they weren't the most dangerous type of guys, and even their running backs, we thought they were good as a group. But you want to just say, oh, this guy individual is the best back in the league. But their offensive line to start the game was really good. Now, obviously, it worked in our favor that they had 2 key injuries, and we saw once that happened how it started to shift as well in terms of just dominating the line of scrimmage. The Cowboys are coming in like that, though, and for the defense now, we don't have to worry about gauging these guys on the fly or seeing who they put out there on the fly. It's like, no, we know we have a game plan. And for the Steelers guys, they are very familiar with Cameron Ervin from his time in Cleveland. So when you're thinking about all those things, that's the thing that I just feel like is the ultimate just backbreaker for them, regardless of if Garrett Gilbert or Cooper Rush, or if they even went back to DiNucci at some point in the game, regardless of how well those guys could potentially play.
That's a good point.
The fact that they can't protect those guys is a recipe for disaster. I'm not gonna lie, I was happy when Jerry Jones went on and said, man, I you know what? We felt like DiNucci was a little bit in over his head. We shouldn't have put him out there. He's not ready. Let's sit him this week, because this is going to get bad from protecting the quarterback standpoint. Like, those offensive linemen that they have in Dallas right now, they're not good enough to stand up against what we have, and especially how deep we are as well. We've seen now, not just our starting guys. We've seen Alex Highsmith come in and make plays. We've seen Isaiah Buggs come in and make plays. We've seen Henry Mondeau and shout out to, I forgot who it was on YouTube, man. They gave me a little French translation. They said it's Mondeau, so I stopped saying.
Mondeau.
Yeah,
what have I been saying?
I've been saying Mondeau. We both been kind of going back and forth. It's Mondeau.
I don't even know.
Yeah, so that's what they told me. So shout out to you. You know who you are. Yeah, so with Henry Mondeau, we saw him last week draw a big holding penalty and things like that. The rotation of bodies that we're going to be able to throw at that unit, I just don't think they're going to be able to stand it. And that's the issue, because they're not even going to be able to run the ball because of that element. At least, like I said, with Zeke, okay, if you have the O-line up front, we've seen scenarios where in the past they ride Zeke heavy and make something out of nothing. But they don't have that luxury right now. And we've seen just the past 2 weeks with some of those injuries, ever since Dak has went down, their offensive line has gotten more banged up, just how much of a struggle it's been for Zeke to even to have any type of productivity as well, man.
Dude, and I was looking up here. I'm trying to find this stat right here. I sent all my notes to my Gmail. It's loading up. Hold on. All right, dude. Here's their last 3 games, dude. Because I didn't want to get too in depth, at least with their offense, all the way to the beginning of the season, because they don't have Dak anymore. So the last 3 games,
everything changed for them once he went down.
I looked at their defense a little bit just throughout all the weeks, just because I guess their defense has stayed the same. Maybe some injuries here and there, but their offense, the last 3 games, lost to AZ 38-10, so they only dropped 10 points. Washington 3 points. Eagles 9 points. I just don't see their offense really doing it, or their offense doing anything against us with defense. I just really don't. And
I think it would be different too if they had the same quarterback throughout those 3 games, because I mean, just like in anything, you see, okay, the more you're out there, the more repetitions you get, the more comfortable you'll get, and guys typically will start to look a lot better as it progresses. But literally, you think about these past 4 weeks, they're on their 3rd different quarterback now, between Dak going down, Andy Dalton starting the game, now he's down. Ben DiNucci starting the game, now he's down. And now you're going to, like I said, Garrett Gilbert, and you can still potentially see Cooper Rush.
Did they officially make the announcement with Gilbert?
Well, they're leaning towards him. They have him as it stands today. That's who they have listed as the starter.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that's the only thing. That's why I just keep saying Garrett Gilbert, because that's who they technically have today as the guy taking 1 reps. But that could easily change tomorrow, and that could easily change Saturday. And if Jerry Jones calls down on Sunday and says, you know what, I want this guy to start, we know that's how they run their organization. It'll happen. Not saying it's the best way to run it, which we can all agree upon, but that's just how Jerry operates. So that's why for me, it doesn't pose a lot of threats, because either way, it's going to be a new quarterback, new cadence. They all have to get used to how he sets the tempo of that offense, the things that he's good at or not good at. It's just too many variables at that quarterback position. And we talked even last year about this in terms of, man, when you're going back and forth between Mason Rudolph for a couple of games, then Duck for a couple of games, then you try to go back to Mason, then back to Duck, it's just too much movement at that position. That's too critical of a position to have that open door and that carousel going on like that. And ultimately, that's what they're having to experience right now. And luckily for us, we get to catch them while they're still in the middle of it. I mean, I think it'll be different 2 or 3 weeks down the road where they'll say, okay, this is the guy we're sticking with, whether it's Dalton coming back from COVID or however that thing plays out. They would at least have somebody to have multiple starts under their belt, because right now that's going to be problem number one for them.
They still in the East, 2-6.
Oh, they're still, yeah, absolutely.
Are the Eagles?
They're like one game behind right now. Yeah, they could legit win their division, man. That's the thing.
Hold on, let me look this up, because the Eagles, they have 3 wins.
The Eagles have. It has to be 3. It can't be 4.
All right, hold on.
Yeah, because they lost
3.
Baltimore.
They have a tie though. That's the thing. That's probably that gives them a little bit of a nod over. All right, so yeah, Eagles are 3-4-1.
Yeah.
Cowboys 2-6. That doesn't look too good for them.
Yeah, so they're still in the mix though for the division.
What do they have technically? They don't have the games back here. What is that in terms of games back? That's got to be like
1.5 maybe.
Is it 1?
Tops, yeah.
1.5.
Tops 1.5.
2. Yeah. That tie probably gives them a half though.
That's what I'm saying. 1.5 then. Because you said they're 3,
but they
in 1, right?
3-4-1.
Yeah, and they're 2-6.
All right, so I don't know. Yeah, it's around there.
They're definitely in the mix of it, and that's the thing. They still have to see all those teams again in their division. They could easily win 2 more division games and be hosting a playoff game. Like, that's the state of the NFC East right now.
What's crazy to me is I mentioned it earlier about the receivers, Zeke. Like, I think each of the receivers, Gallup has over 400 yards. Their tight end has over 300. Like, these are on pace for really good seasons.
Very talented, skilled players. And
Cooper has 500. CeeDee Lamb has over 500. I think Zeke's still on like a 1,000-yard year. Right. He's definitely having a down year, though.
But we even talked about it before the season in terms of just talented rosters. We said, man, the Cowboys are talented on offense. They have a ton of pieces in the addition of CeeDee Lamb. To already a group that had 2 just really good receivers that, man, I mean, from a skill position standpoint, you're going to be hard pressed to find a better group. But when you take away the quarterback, man, it changes everything, because it doesn't matter how talented those guys are around you if you can't get them the ball. And then the O-line element makes it real Cleveland-like in terms of, we said, man, last year, dude, Baker had weapons around him, but they couldn't protect him. Now this year, they could protect him a little bit better, but there's other things going on, you know? So for me, man, that's the biggest issue with them. It's like, you have a ton of talent, a ton of accessories, but you don't have the core pieces, which is your quarterback and your offensive line, man. So yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle for them from an offensive standpoint.
Anything else we're missing here?
I don't think so.
That's what I mean. I just don't know. I just don't know what there is to say or what more there is to say about this matchup.
Yeah, because I'm like, even if they're having even if they can run really good routes, and we do know from a coverage standpoint, if you're talking about just trying to match up with CeeDee Lamb, Cooper, and Gallup, that could be a nightmare at times. But knowing that they don't have the quarterback to get those guys the ball,
like you mentioned, the pressure, because pressure has made up for some of our lapses in coverage.
Absolutely.
I don't know, dude. There's nothing because we go through this podcast about like, all right, what's the chance or what's the way that our opposition could potentially win this game or like give us some trouble.
For me, the only way I see the scenario where they have success or enough success to win a game is with their defense, not with their offense.
It's something fluky. It's like a pick six. Maybe they get a punt return for a touchdown, a fumble for a touchdown. The
spread, for example, right? The spread I think is at 14.5, right? So it's a two touchdown spread. That's what the bettors think the gap is between these teams. That's easily a strip sack return to a crib, a pick six,
or even strip sack right in the red zone or something like that.
And we saw even the Dolphins last week. I mean, when they beat the Rams, Tua didn't have some great game. I think Tua had maybe 90 yards total passing, but they scored on defense. They found different ways to impact the game and win a game that none of us really thought that they should win because the Rams at the time they were playing pretty well.
So I guess that's the one, if we want to transition to their defense for their offense, that's kind of their hope. Even though you got to
protect the ball, man. You got to protect the ball.
Even though I'm not concerned about that either. I mean, their defense is the worst rushing defense in the league. They've let up tons of yards.
But this is the thing. Those numbers are going to lie to you.
A little bit, yes.
When your offense is as bad as their offense is, it puts you in very, very bad situations. You're always playing from behind. It's just a lot that goes on with that. Now, I think for me, when I look at their defense, it's less personnel, it's more so effort and communication. Like you'll see times.
Oh, dude, they have a bunch of talent.
Yeah, they have a ton of time, but you'll see times where literally they just look like they're quitting on plays. And then, I mean, I forgot which player it was. You remember after the Browns game where they're asking the man, do y'all take plays off? And he's like, yeah, we're not going to play hard every game. I mean, or every snap. Like, we take some plays off. And I was like, bro, you might do that, but you definitely ain't supposed to say it publicly. Like, you tripping. But hearing that along with the miscommunications that they're already having is a recipe for disaster. You can't have mental errors and be a lazy team on defense. Like that's not going to bode well. And from a morale standpoint, they just don't look like they're having fun. They don't look excited to be out there. It's more so, man, we're counting down the weeks before we ship our cars and go home. Like that's the type of mentality I see when I see them on tape right now.
It's weird because you could look at some of their first couple games on defense where Matt Ryan, the Browns obviously obliterated them on the ground. What's the other team isn't there another team that had a bunch of passing yards on them, or am I missing something? I know Matt Ryan Russell Wilson. It was Russell Wilson went off. He had like the 5 touchdowns over 300 yards. It's weird because you have that, but then you also have when they faced Kyler Murray, like he didn't play too good in terms of passing because the Cardinals' rushing game was really good. And Kyler had
that was Dalton's first start, right?
I think it was his first start. Yeah.
Yep.
So and then you look at last week with Carson Wentz, he kind of struggled against them. I don't know if that's completely more of Wentz almost giving them the game himself because he had the 2 fumbles, the 2 picks didn't really. Those might have been bad decisions on Wentz's part.
And I felt like too. That game, if Philly can take care of the ball, Philly was able, I felt like, to move the ball.
Oh, they were. Yep.
So that's my thing with that. Like, you take away those turnovers, you're going to have those opportunities. I mean, in terms of just thinking about their defense from a productivity standpoint, it's weird because, like you said, you watch them and they have talent. I mean, when we talk about Aldon Smith and DeMarcus Lawrence, those are very talented players. We talk about their linebackers in terms of Jalen Smith. I know Leighton Vander Esch, might be. Oh yeah, he should be back by now because I know he's dealing with the whole neck thing. But
he's back.
He's good.
Yep.
And then I'm drawing a blank on the other guy. You already said Jalen Smith. Yeah, Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch. Yeah, because Alden's technically the third linebacker, but he's more of your
DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah,
they threw Randy Gregory in there.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, yeah, what was his name? Randy.
Okay.
Yes. I was like, I know it's another edge guy, man. Where's this guy's going?
Yeah. They've been throwing him in there.
But when you think of those guys, those are very productive players. I mean, throughout their careers, we've seen all of those guys at some point in time get nice compensation too to back up that play. But it's just, I don't know, man. When you watch it, it's not popping like that right now, man.
No. So what are you saying about the defense? I mean, they have let up a bunch of these rushing yards here. I know, like you said, some of it does have to do with just game flow and how that has gone. But it still goes back to, I don't know what there is. If we just do what we're supposed to be doing, we're 7-0 for a reason. Cowboys are 2-6. I know part of that is just no Dak and how incompetent the offense is, but their defense has been pretty consistently below average throughout the whole season.
My biggest concern is, like I said, just protecting. You just have to protect. If you protect, they don't have the people out there that are going to be able to match it with our receivers or our tight ends. I think that we'll be able to run the ball on them as well, but it starts up front. And even more so when you look at that roster, the guys that we named, that's all in the box. That's front 7. That's those type of guys. Their corners aren't matching up with our receivers. Their safeties aren't matching up with our receivers. But the only thing out of this whole matchup that we talked about that could potentially give us an issue is their rush, and that still isn't consistent enough to
we've handled.
Right.
I don't know. Do you want to say as a whole better rushes, but like going up against Myles Garrett, Broncos with Chubb.
Yeah. And we can go down the list like
J.J. Watt.
This is a battle-tested group. They've played some of the higher-end talent. We talked about Myles Garrett.
Obviously the Ravens too last week.
Right?
Yeah.
And Calais Campbell. We've seen some of the higher-end. We've also seen guys who have more legacy when we're talking about a J.J. Watt. Then we've also seen good collective unit in terms of Philly.
Titans.
And Titans as well with Conley and that group with Harold Landry as well. So we've seen them play different styles of rushers, whether they are a solo guy or if it's a group guy, if it's a depth guy or a depth team. We've seen that and they've been able to handle it. So that's why I'm still not overly concerned about it. I just feel like if we're talking about a point of emphasis, if we're talking about what has to take place, this O-line has to protect against these guys right here, because that's the absolute only way that they will be able to create any type of negativity for us.
Yeah, same. I mean, we just take care of the ball, because I think what was it? They have 7 takeaways this whole season. 4 of them came in that Eagles game.
Yes.
So 3 all the way up to that point. So that's 7 games. They only had 3 turnovers.
Now the caveat could be that, man, they're just coming off of that performance as well, right? So
I feel like from watching that game, do you kind of feel this too? Wentz basically gave it to them, those turnovers.
Yeah, but some people would say that Wentz is a top tier quarterback, so I don't want to say that he gave them anyway. I would have to say that, they just, played really well against an elite level quarterback, because, I mean, people will say that Wentz is a top 10 guy. We've had
He's not making the best decisions as of late.
Very
He's definitely
true,
not.
But that's the whole thing. I mean, it's depending on how you want to view Wentz in that situation. Some people will spin it like, oh, man, it was good, man. Defense balled out. Cowboys, they turned the corner. I'm personally not buying it, but I'm not the biggest Wentz believer. But,
right.
That's how I feel about him anyways.
Right. What's your keys? Like, what would you go into the game? I know you said your point of emphasis. What would you do? You say you got the first 20 plays.
Yeah, so if I'm the offense, first 20 plays, I first want to establish the run. I feel like you have to establish James Conner early in this game, because by doing that, it makes them, first off, man, it's no worse feeling than getting the ball ran down your throat. You can throw the ball and hit me on a bomb. I'm not losing sleep. I'm chalking it up as a one-off. You can throw it downfield. You get a lucky PI. I'm not losing sleep over that. It's fluky. It comes with the territory. If you march the ball down my throat 7, 9, 10 plays, just hammering the ball, running it, that's a sick feeling, because there is no excuse. I can't say, oh, they got lucky because of that, or, oh, man, he just threw it up and, something happened. Like, nah, that whole thing goes out the window. And I personally feel that the Steelers' offense is more than capable of doing that. I think you give them a heavy dose of James Conner early, and then from there, that's going to make the passing element that much more easier for Ben and these receivers. I don't think that you come out and try to just air it out like how Ben was in the second half against the Ravens. I don't like that approach, because you expose yourself to unnecessary negative potential. We talked about their edge rushers, right? By coming out here and just trying to throw it to start the game off, if they get lucky and get a strip sack, that changes the whole.
Or if they see you're just being one-dimensional.
Right, that changes everything. Or they get a lucky pick off of a tip or something like that. Then they got that feeling of hope. Now we're over here like, dang, all right, defense has to make a play. If defense doesn't get the job done, they score. Now we feeling, oh, it's not as easy as we thought. Whereas if you come out and you run the ball down their throat to start this game off, James Conner caps it off with a nice punishing run for a touchdown, their body language is going to let you know that they are already tanking. And then from there, now, now you got to play big ball with me. And now we can play out of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends and still be able to take shots. We can bring out bigger body personnel groupings and still hit Claypool or Deontay or James Washington, hit those guys downfield. That's there. But I feel like you have to start the game off with the run. So that way, man, you minimize those edge rushers and ultimately get them taken out of the game early too. Because once they check out, they're checking out. This is not a team where they're going to check out and then they want to come back and play hard and then they want to check out again. For them, when you watch them on tape, you can see when they officially say, all right, man, we're done with this game, it shows on tape and it looks bad. It's no, I mean, you've seen it, man. It's bad. It is bad. And that's like, when I'm just looking, I'm just like, I know for a fact that we can make them do that. In terms of making a team quit, we talk about we would have certain games we would go in and that would be the objective. We're like, man, we know this isn't a good team. If we get on them early, we can really make this team quit. And this is how we have to do it. And we'll go out there and execute it. And a lot of times it would work out just like that. And this is a scenario, the perfect scenario for that, man. And why not be another good week to get the younger running back some more touches?
I was going to say, like, why not make this a game? We get Mason some time in the fourth quarter. We get McFarland some time.
The same way we did versus Cleveland, I fully anticipated being like that. Now, obviously, Cleveland happened faster because of the turnovers we were able to create on defense. And I think we will be able to do that again, because I do believe that with last week versus Baltimore, we kind of were handcuffed in terms of the exotic coverages we would do. It was more simulated stuff where it looks like it's a pressure. You might even see Vince Williams blitz, so you might see Cam Sutton blitz. But when you pause the tape, it's just 4 guys rushing, everybody else is in coverage. That's what a simulated pressure is. So we had to do a lot more of that and still play basic cover 3. So that's obviously why Lamar was able to hit some of those passes, because it's just soft spots in the zone. Whereas this week, because of the running element being gone, they get to go back to some of those exotic man coverages that we saw where Minka's now in the box and he's the low robber, the guy that's reading the quarterback and making a play. And with these young quarterbacks or inexperienced quarterbacks, they're going to tell you where they're throwing. They're not on that level where they're looking right to look you off and then go back left on the backside. They're not capable of that at this stage. So I look at Minka and I'm like, man, I can see a turnover this game. I see somebody creating that turnover because they're not going to be capable of doing the things necessary to pass on our defense. So for me, when we're talking about the offense, I'm like, man, don't even give them that luxury. Run it down their throat, get them behind early, make them have to be one-dimensional, and then we are going to feast. And then from there, man, third, fourth quarter hits, like you said, get the young boys in there. Mason, you get your reps. McFarland, you get a rep. Benny Snell, you get a rep. Jalen Samuel, you get some of that too, man. Like that's what I want to see from this game.
What would we do at receiver? We'd still have some of our key guys in. I guess.
Technically, all of our key guys are young.
I know.
that's the problem. Right?
Defense.
Who's our wildly vetted receiver?
Juju.
Or either him or Ray McLeod.
I guess.
I must say those are the.
He's young though too.
I'm just saying in comparison to like Claypool and, Deontay.
James Washington, only 3 years.
Yeah.
Defense, it'd be Highsmith. It'd be
Ola Daney. He would get a lot more, and then you go on Bugs.
Justin Lane, Sutton.
Yeah, well, Justin Lane has been playing a good amount due to the Mike Hilton injury, so you would definitely see him out there a lot more from that standpoint. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think that would be a good goal. I just really don't. I know from an NFL player standpoint, and if I was an NFL player, I would like to think I'd be thinking this way, not overlooking the opponent. I'm studying all week. I'm like, I got to come out here, play the best I can. I don't care who's against me. I'm going to be playing to the best of my ability. I just don't see it though in terms of me analyzing this game where I'm concerned about anything, dude. I just feel like we should come out and win this. And like I said earlier, I just have that feeling with this team that we aren't going to be overlooking. So as a fan sitting back, I'm like, all right, this is going to be a good week for us.
Well, and I will say this is one of the biggest reasons Coach Tomlin always talks about nameless gray faces, because we talk about the past 3 games, right? And how everybody and their mother is going to hype it, right? But if you allow yourself as a player to allow that to alter your preparation, what are you going to do? You're going to over-prepare. You're going to overthink it. You're going to get out there and be pressing too hard, right? Because, man, this is the big game that everybody's talked about. But then you flip it, and now you got this matchup where, oh, well, man, they're 2-6. Literally, everybody and their mother is telling you how easy of a game this is. You leave the facility, your significant other, oh, man, I should blow them out. We're up here, oh, man, y'all be done early by halftime. This is why Coach Tomlin always talks about nameless gray faces, because if you allow your preparation to change and be dictated by the opponent, you will always be set up to fail. If you allow yourself to get high certain weeks and low certain weeks, it's a recipe for disaster. You just cannot do that. So that's the biggest reason why in the facility it's always nameless gray faces. It's never, oh, we're playing the Cowboys this week, or we're playing the Ravens this week. They got this guy and that guy, because it's going to allow that human nature to seep in. You always have to just look at that thing as, man, I don't care who the opponent is. This is how I prepare. This is my mentality when I go out here, and it has to be like that, which those guys have. And like I said, man, being able to talk to some of those dudes, man, on the regular, they fully are operating with that mentality, and I fully anticipate them taking care of business, man. I'm excited about it, man.
Yeah. I mean, this is a quick preview. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, and I was gonna say this too, man, because obviously I feel like we've pretty much deep dove into this, and we'll get the predictions. But another thing I want to talk about, we'll do it after the prediction, but we'll get to it. But from a score prediction, I guess we already know.
Whoa,
right?
What's this? You're teasing the topic, but then you don't drop the topic. Now we go to score prediction.
That's the tease, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
because I'm already excited. I want to get past these score predictions into the tease. All right, 27-13.
You gonna tell us why? Because I remember last week I jumped on your toes. Last week you said 27-13. I was like, well, we already know it's gonna be 27-13. Then you're like, well, it's because of this. So I just didn't know if you had. What do you mean? I'm just saying that.
Because of what reason? I'll give you the main reason. It's because we keep winning, as I predict. 27-13.
Okay.
So wait, how the score could be 27-13?
Yeah. Usually give us some reason of, man, I think it's gonna be a touchdown, a field goal. We're gonna get this.
I'll be honest, them getting 13, I don't know how the hell that's happening.
Okay.
And I hope we get a little bit more than 27. So I do not have a synopsis on this one. I'm just saying it because we keep winning with that record. And my beard is here, and you're wearing the hat every Sunday.
Yes.
So that's what we got to keep consistent here.
Okay.
And whatever anyone else is doing out there, I know some people have been saying, yo, I've been doing this, and we've been winning. Everyone just keep that going.
I like it, man. So for me, man, I'm going 24-3. The only reason I don't have it in terms of the only reason I don't have it where they're going to score 30 and 40 points because we know for a fact once they get up 3 scores, they're going to start the conservative play calling. We saw that in the Browns game when they scored. I mean, dude, the pick six was obviously a big part of the start of it, but we saw in the second half how conservative the approach was.
Ben didn't have many stats.
Yeah, and it went heavy run game. You know, it was no more they're trying to stretch the field. And I just know, and it's more so because of the respect at the NFL level, right? We talk about the competition. We know how tight it is anyways based on personnel, but there's like a mutual respect factor I always feel like in these games where, yes, we're up, but unless it's pick sixes and punt returns, because that type of stuff you can't account for, right? We can't say, well, hey, you get a pick six, don't run it back. Or you get a fumble recovery, don't run it back. Though when those things happen, then you start getting into the 30s and the 40s. But a lot of times in the NFL, once a team gets up 3 scores, they aren't going to try to keep running it up. It's not like college where you got to worry about style points for votes and things along that nature. So that's the only reason why I don't anticipate it getting into those, higher up 30s and stuff like that. Even though we know we're fully capable of that, I just don't think they'll do that. But the reason, I mean, when you said, I was wondering if you were going to keep the 13, I just don't see them getting, I mean, if they score 13 points, I'm going to be upset with our defense. That's all I'm saying, man. Because they should not be able to move the ball on us. They shouldn't. And I feel like the field goal, I threw that in there as a fluky thing because, I mean, when you talk about pitching shutouts, it's just hard to do. And then especially if you're up big, like I anticipate us being, you start rotating in other players.
Is that the mindset? Pitch a shutout this week?
I mean, you could preach it, but technically every week we pitch a shutout.
Okay.
But even though it's funny thing though, that's never actually a goal on so every game as a defense, right? You'll go in and you'll say, these are our goals for the games as a defense, right? And
stats?
Yeah, so it's always the exact same. So we'll set this at the beginning of the year. So we'll say, hey, we want to get at least 3 sacks, 1 turnover, under 100 yards rushing, 17 points or fewer. And depending on the defense, you might change that 17 to 15 or fewer, 13 or fewer. You might change it from 100 yards to 80 yards. But that's going to always be the check mark. So even though we always joke about, man, you want to get the shutout, we always laugh about even as players, man, let's get the shutout. From a coaching staff standpoint, from a player personnel standpoint, you just know how hard that is. It's kind of like when the Steelers came out a couple years ago and said, we're going to average 30. It's like, bro, you know how hard it is to average 30 points a game in the NFL? Like, it hasn't been done.
Are we this year?
Well, I'm like,
I think we are.
But this is the thing. I'm like, can you do it? Sure. But do it over 16 games is difficult. That's the only thing. So that's why it's like, even though we say some of those things from a realistic goal standpoint, a lot of that isn't even like there.
Are we close? Am I off on this?
I don't know. I never look at that stuff. Bro.
I think we are close to 30. I just thought of it with you bringing it up. But yeah, all right. Those are the score predictions.